Hello everyone. In today's lecture, we are going to study the fluid kinematics. And this fluid kinematics is very much important because, as you all know, kinematics deals with the study of velocity, study of motion, study of acceleration without considering the cause for that motion. We consider the cause for that motion, that is the force, in dynamics, that comes under the fluid dynamics, which is a separate branch of fluid mechanics. So in this lecture we are going to study the fluid kinematics. So in fluid kinematics, the velocity acceleration at any point in a flow is studied, and once the velocity and acceleration are known, then the pressure distribution and hence the various forces acting on the fluid can be found out. So there are basically two methods which are used for the analysis of fluid motion. So first one is the Lagrangian's method and second one is the Eulerian's method. So in this lecture we are going to study the various topics such as the continuity equation, then local and temporal acceleration, then circulation, then rotation, stream function, path function, velocity function. So all these things including the numericals we are going to study in this lecture. So one by one, step by step, we will see all these topics, and we will study all these topics in the form of the important questions. So therefore, for this topic fluid kinematics, the first important question that can be asked is for the Eulerian and Lagrangian method. So how we can describe these two methods and what is the exact difference between these two methods, that we need to find out. So a fluid mass is composed of various particles which can have the independent moments, and hence the velocity and acceleration of that particles may vary with respect to time or space, or it may vary with respect to both. So this means that the study of motion of fluid starts with the study of motion of individual particles. So we need to study the separately individual particle. That is the meaning. So therefore, for studying this motion of individual particle, we are having the two methods. So our first method is the Lag Lagrangian's method. So this Lagrangian method is dependent on the study of that particular particle in which the observer also moves with the fluid. So suppose that this is a system in which a fluid is particles are flowing. So the observer will also move from this point to this point to this point. So that type of study is considered under the Lagrangian method. While as exactly opposite to this, there is Eulerian method. Now what happens in this Eulerian method, which is exactly opposite to the Lagrangian's method? Now in this Eulerian method we also continue to study the velocity and acceleration. But what happens here, if your fluid is particles or one particular fluid particle is moving from this point to this point, while as your observer remains constant. So suppose that this observer is there, so it will remain at the constant location and it will observe these things. Okay, so this type of system is there in the Eulerian method. So I hope that you understood what are the different these two methods, and what is the significance of these two different method that you might have understood. Now after that, the next question is define and explain the streamline, strict line and path line. So first one is the path line. So this is the basic question. So the definition is very simple. The actual path traced by the fluid particle over a period of time, that is a path line. It indicates the direction of the velocity of same fluid particle at the successive instant of time. So it does not represent the velocity. It represents the direction of velocity at successive intervals. So suppose that this particle is flowing like this. So this is a path line. Now at specific intervals, the direction of velocity is given. So that will be nothing but a path line. Now the second definition asked in the question is for the streamline. So it is also the imaginary line drawn through a flowing mass of a fluid such that the tangent to it at any point represents the direction of motion, that is nothing but the velocity vector at that point. Now this can also be explained in such a simple manner. Suppose that these three particles are flowing through these three paths, then this will be the tangent drawn to first path, this will be the second path, and this will be for the third path. Now these three pink lines are the three tangents and three blue lines are the three path lines. Now what happens here, these three pink lines are the nothing but streamlines. So these are the streamlines, which are nothing but the tangent acting to the path of the line, that is the path line for the particles. So that tangents are nothing but the streamline. So fluid consisting the various fluid particles, the pattern of fluid flow may be represented by a series of streamlines such like we have represented in this figure, in this diagram. Now these are obtained by the series of curves, by drawing the series of curves such like these three curves we have drawn through a flowing fluid such that the velocity vector at any point is tangential to the curve. So the velocity vector you can see here is always tangential to this curve. So these lines are nothing but the streamlines. So which are the streamlines now? Exactly the pink line or blue line? The blue lines are the, what you can say, streamlines. Now why this is? Because these are the tangents and these are the streamlines. These three blue lines are the streamlines. Because the tangent drawn to these curves represent the velocity vector. Such lines are the streamlines, and these pink lines are nothing but only the tangents. That is, shows the velocities at that particular point or velocity vector for that particular point. Now you are drawing this tangent at this point, so this will shows the velocity vector at this point. This is showing the velocity vector at this point. So the point at which you are drawing the velocity vector or the tangent, that velocity vector will be shown at that particular point. These blue lines are nothing but the streamlines and pink lines are nothing but the tangents. Tangent means these are nothing but the velocity vectors, and such curves are nothing but the streamlines to which a tangent shows the velocity vectors. So this is the simplest definition. You don't get confused between the tangents and streamlines. Actually the basically the curves are the streamlines and the straight tangents are the velocity vectors. Now the more technical thing in this is about the your what you can say, equation. So the equation for streamline in two dimensional, that is xy plane, is dx by u is equal to dy by v. So now from where this equation has came, as you know, these are the streamlines in two dimension. It will have the velocities will have the x and y component. So dx is the change in x direction divided by the velocity in x direction, which is nothing but u. Dy is the change in y direction, that is the y dimension, that is vertical dimension. This is your y axis, this is x axis, divided by the velocity in y direction. So these two ratios will be equivalent. So this will be the equation for your streamline. So remember this thing, the equation for streamline. Okay, so this is about this particular topic. Now the next thing that we are going to see is the straight line. So the next definition we are going to see for the strict line. So what is a strict line? Strict lines are nothing but a series when a series of fluid particles are passing through a fixed point, then such type of line is called as the strict line. So this is nothing but a line traced by the moving particles. Now how to get it practically? Suppose that colorful liquid particles are flowing through a glass tube, then you are able to see that various color layers are moving, and that layers or lines will nothing but be a strict lines, because they are representing the various lines traced by a series of fluid particles. Now diagrammatically we can show it like this. Suppose that these are the fluid particles. Now these are flowing in these directions. Now these particles are flowing in these directions. Now if the color is attached, means if this particle are color particles, then a line will be traced along their path. As they will move, you are able to see their path because of these color particles. As these particles will move, they will trace a line. Such experiment we can perform it in the Reynolds experiment. That Reynolds experiment we conduct to know the Reynolds number of the fluid, that is the rho Vd by mu. Mass density multiplied by velocity multiplied by diameter whole divided by the dynamic viscosity will give you the Re, and Re will be nothing but the Reynolds number. Okay, so this is an example of it, a perfect example when we conduct the Reynolds experiment to know the Reynolds number, and that traced lines by that colors are nothing but the strict lines. Now after that, one more important and basic question that will always be there, that will be the difference between the various flows, such as the steady flow, unsteady flow, then uniform flow, non-uniform flow. Such type of questions will be asked. So what are these questions that we will study? So the difference between steady flow and unsteady flow, that we will see first. So what is mean by the steady flow? If at any point in the flowing fluid various characters such as the velocity, acceleration, then displacement, velocity, acceleration, pressure, temperature, which describe the behavior of that fluid motion, and that characteristics does not change with the time, then such flow we will call it as the steady flow. So which properties or which characteristics will not change? Del V by del T means change in velocity with respect to time will be 0, means there will not be a change in velocity with respect to time. Then such flow is the steady flow. Then after that there will not be a change in pressure with respect to time, then also it will be a steady flow. There will not be a change in temperature with respect to time, then it will also be a steady flow. And the same for the other such characteristics or quantities. And vice versa to this will be the unsteady flow. So for unsteady flow, exactly opposite to this, that we can say, that is del V by del T not equal to 0, del P by del T not equal to 0, del T by del T not equal to 0. Means velocity, pressure, temperature, all these characteristics, quantities will vary with respect to time. So such type of flow is the unsteady flow. Now these are the two types. Now the next two types are the uniform flow and non-uniform flow. Now what is meant by uniform and non-uniform? Same things will be there, same characteristics, which does not change with the displacement, then it will be uniform flow. Means del V by del S with respect to distance, that is displacement, del P by del S, and so on, such quantities. And exactly vice versa will be for the non-uniform flow. So velocity, pressure, temperature does not change with respect to the distance, displacement, then it is uniform. If it changes with the distance or location, then non-uniform flow. Simple definitions are there. Now the third difference is the laminar and turbulent flow. Now what is the difference between this laminar and turbulent flow? When the various fluid particles move in the layers, then the various layers of that fluid will touch each other, will slide each other smoothly one over the other, and that type of flow is the laminar flow if these all are parallel to each other. So this is also called as the viscous flow. So in this type of flow, viscosity plays an important role, and the flow of a very viscous fluid is considered as a laminar flow. So it is also called as the viscous flow. Then exactly opposite to this, that is turbulent flow. When the fluid particles move in an entirely indisciplined manner, which results in the rapid and continuous mixing of fluid into the one layer to another, leading to the formation of eddies also, means rotating bodies that are nothing but the eddies, then the flow is called as the turbulent flow. The formed eddies or vortices and their random movement give rise to the fluctuations in the velocity and pressure at any point in the flow of the fluid. So the artificial channel, then water flows from the pipes, then smoke from the chimneys, or the natural water streams are the examples of turbulent flows. So this is about the today's lecture. So we will continue this fluid kinematics in our next lecture. So thank you.